Look into a mirror and move closer to the light. If your eyes appear black, you may think you are looking at the most ordinary eye color on Earth. But that is where the mystery begins. Those eyes are not truly black, and their story does not belong to one country, one race, or one forgotten tribe. It reaches back beyond written history, beyond the first cities, and beyond every border drawn on a modern map. Their secret is not that they are rare. Their secret is that they survived. And when scientists began tracing the genes behind the darkest human eyes, the trail led toward one of the oldest inheritances carried by our species. Start with the first illusion. Human irises do not contain black pigment. Eyes that look black are usually an extremely deep shade of brown, holding so much melanin that normal light cannot reveal the warmer color underneath. Stand near a bright window, let sunlight strike the iris from the side, or look at a close photograph taken with a flash. A hidden ring of chestnut, bronze, or reddish-brown may suddenly emerge. From across a room, however, the iris can appear almost identical to the pupil, creating one dark circle that seems to swallow the light. That darkness comes mainly from melanin, the same broad family of pigments involved in the color of your skin and hair. But melanin does more than paint the iris brown. It changes how light behaves inside the eye. In a lightly pigmented iris, more light can scatter through its tissue and return toward the observer. In a deeply pigmented iris, abundant eumelanin absorbs much of that light before it escapes. The more light that disappears into the tissue, the darker the iris appears. What looks like black is therefore not a separate color. It is brown taken to such depth that the eye hides its own warmth. Behind that visible darkness sits a complicated genetic system. Many people were taught that eye color follows one simple rule. Brown is dominant, blue is recessive, and a small classroom chart can predict everything. Real inheritance is far less tidy. Genes called OXA2 and HERX2 play major roles in controlling iris pigmentation, but they are only part of the story. Many other genetic regions influence how pigment is produced, transported, stored, and distributed. Your final eye color is not decided by one switch. It is more like an ancient council of genes, each contributing a small instruction until the exact shade settles into place. That is why two parents with very dark eyes can sometimes have a child with lighter eyes, and why siblings may inherit different shades of brown. Even two people whose eyes both appear black may not carry the same genetic combination. One person may reveal amber near the pupil, another may show a reddish ring under sunlight, a third may remain almost charcoal in every condition. To the casual observer, their eyes look identical. Genetically, the roads that produced them may be different. This is also why eye color cannot reveal a complete ancestry by itself. It cannot prove that you belong to one ethnic group. It cannot identify a lost civilization, confirm a family legend, or tell you where every ancestor lived. But it can still carry a deeper clue. Very dark eyes appear across Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Oceania, the Americas, and many other regions because deeply pigmented irises traveled with human populations through nearly every great migration in our history. Imagine early groups of Homo sapiens moving across ancient Africa long before anyone understood continents. They followed rivers, coastlines, animals, and changing seasons. Families separated. Small communities crossed unfamiliar ground. Some lineages disappeared completely. Others continued northeast toward the lands beyond Africa. Their descendants moved through Arabia, along southern coasts, into South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Other groups traveled north and west. Much later, people crossed into the Americas. Languages changed, bodies adapted, cultures rose and vanished, yet deeply pigmented eyes remained. And notice what that journey means. The darkest eyes did not remain frozen in one ancestral population. They moved into new climates, mixed with other lineages, and continued appearing in children whose families would eventually speak different languages. The trait survived not because every carrier lived the same life, but because humanity kept moving. Migration scattered it. Isolation preserved it. Intermarriage rearranged the genes behind it. Chance decided which combinations returned in each generation. So when two strangers with nearly black eyes meet on opposite sides of the world, their similarity is not proof of a recent shared tribe. It is a distant echo of an inheritance far older than either culture. This does not mean everyone with black-looking eyes descends from one recent ancestor. The truth is more powerful than that. Dark eyes are widespread because they preserve a pigmentation pattern that was already common in ancient human populations. Lighter eye colors emerged later through different combinations of genetic variation, reduced pigment, and population history. The darkest irises are not a strange mutation belonging to one isolated people. They are part of the older background from which many of the world's visible eye colors developed. That changes the meaning of commonness. We usually treat rare features as more mysterious because they are easier to notice, but a rare mutation can sometimes tell the story of one dramatic change. A widespread ancestral trait tells the story of endurance. It shows what remained while humanity divided into thousands of communities. It crossed deserts without maps, oceans without engines, and mountain ranges without roads. It survived famine, disease, violence, and climate shifts severe enough to erase entire ways of life. Every generation was a narrow bridge. Somewhere in your family line, an ancestor survived a winter that killed others. Someone found water during a drought. Someone escaped a flood, recovered from an infection, or reached a safer valley before danger arrived. Someone met another person, formed a family, and passed forward a set of genetic instructions without ever knowing what DNA was. If any one of those lives had ended too early, the exact combination behind your eyes might never have reached you. For centuries, people wrapped dark eyes in stories. Poets compared them to night, polished stone, deep water, ink, and eclipses. Some cultures treated them as signs of strength, loyalty, beauty, danger, secrecy, or spiritual protection. Others used dark features to force people into rigid racial categories, as though one visible trait could summarize an entire bloodline. Genetics destroys that illusion. Eye color carries no passport. It does not reveal what language your ancestors spoke, which gods they worshipped, or which kingdom once claimed their land. Ancient DNA has made that lesson even clearer. Scientists can recover genetic fragments from human remains and estimate certain visible traits, although those reconstructions always contain uncertainty. The results have repeatedly challenged the idea that ancient populations looked like simple versions of the people living in the same places today. Prehistoric communities moved, mixed, separated, returned, and disappeared. Combinations of skin, hair, and eye pigmentation changed across time. A dark-eyed skeleton and a light-eyed skeleton do not represent separate human kinds. They record shifting ancestry inside one deeply connected species. This is where the story becomes personal. A modern ancestry test may divide your DNA into colored percentages and regional labels. Those results can be useful, but they mostly describe comparatively recent connections. Your dark eyes are older than every label on that screen. Their genetic foundation reaches back before Europe was called Europe, before Asia had a name, before nations divided Africa, and before anyone imagined the borders people defend today. The trait does not belong exclusively to Nigeria, Pakistan, Japan, Peru, Arabia, India, or indigenous Australia. People in those places can have profoundly different recent histories, yet the same broad biological solution appears among them. An iris rich in pigment, absorbing incoming light and presenting the world with a deep brown surface. Similar appearance does not erase their differences. It reveals that human variation was carried, reshaped, and shared across a much older family tree. There may have been practical consequences to having more pigment in the iris. Melanin absorbs light, and darker irises generally allow less internal light scattering than lightly pigmented irises. But the full evolutionary story is not simple. Eye color did not develop alone, and scientists should be cautious about claiming that one shade survived for one perfect reason. Population movement, genetic drift, mate choice, environmental pressures, and links with other pigmentation traits may all have contributed. Evolution rarely writes a clean story with a single cause. So do not let anyone tell you that black eyes prove one personality, one destiny, or one pure ancestral line. They do not make a person more trustworthy, more dangerous, stronger, weaker, or spiritually different. Those ideas are cultural inventions placed on top of biology. The real story needs no superstition. It is already extraordinary. Move close to the mirror again. What appears uniform from a distance may reveal rings, fibers, folds, tiny openings, and subtle shifts in color. Under stronger light, near black-brown may soften into coffee, bronze, mahogany, or amber. No two irises are arranged in precisely the same way. The broad color may connect you to an inheritance shared by enormous parts of humanity, while the detailed pattern remains uniquely yours. And that is the real secret of black eyes. They are not truly black. They are not a rare accident born in one forgotten village. They are not evidence of royal blood or a hidden tribe. They are a living trace of a deeply pigmented inheritance carried through humanity's oldest journeys, reshaped by countless genes, and delivered through an unbroken chain of survival. When you look into those dark circles, you are seeing more than color. You are seeing the result of migrations no history book recorded, lives no monument remembers, and ancestors whose names disappeared thousands of years ago. They left no message you can read, and no portrait you can recognize, but part of them remains visible whenever light reaches your iris. Your eyes did not begin with you, they crossed the world to find you.